No, I told you I don't eat fruit. Well, what do you think a smoothie is? That's just a smoothie is a place, maybe in a mall, like a stand, a kiosk, bunch of pieces of fruit hanging out, apples, whatever, getting pulverized. Steve Weiner here from GetRubix.com, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're taking a quick break from migration, and we're going to do a how to Intune or how to do something like a how to. I get so many questions about different things, some of which I've written in the blog, some of which I haven't. So today we're going to talk about how to fix the context menu in Windows 11 or the right-click menu. So let's see how to do it. Pulverized fruit in public, it's disgusting. Okay, so in terms of Windows 11, haven't really talked that much about it. I like Windows 11. I think once you get past some of the cosmetic changes, I think it's a great system here. Here's the problem when I right click. Now, what's the problem, you say? Well, here, let's pull up a traditional, let's say a Windows 10 machine. If I want to right click, all right, the context menu here looks a little different. Looks a little more familiar, right? If I right click on an icon, things like that, right? Very, very nice and familiar. And over here, not so much, right? And of course, we can hit show more options to kind of pull that up, but we don't want to have to do that. Eventually, when we start getting even into some of the Intune features, like the endpoint privilege management, that's going to become way more difficult because we're going to have to do that in order to elevate properly. So how do we get around this? How can we make, when we click the context menu, get here? Well, first, let's talk about what actually makes this happen. So what I want to do is I want to show you how we could address this. So this is in the registry. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up regedit. And where are we looking here? We're kind of in a random place here. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to head over to HKey current user software. Okay, we want to do classes, and we're going to want to go ahead and do CLSID. Okay, there are a bunch of GUIDs here. Without going into what these all do, they basically all control a different aspect of Windows to some degree. So what we have to do is we have to add a very specific one here. So what I've done is I've went ahead and let me go ahead and open this up. Okay, so I'm opening up PowerShell as an admin. And I'm going to paste this value here I had from my notepad. So this is a GUID. It's a very specific GUID. It's one that we need to create in the registry hive here. We're going to have to create that here. Okay, so regexe add. We're going to do HKCU software classes CLSID, and then curly brackets, and in between the curly brackets is our thing, and we're going to give it a force switch. Operation completed successfully. So if we look at the registry now, view, refresh, there it is, 86CA. Okay, so that's our new GUID, and we have to add one more entry there. Okay, so what we're going to do is go back there, and I'm just going to copy this. So we're now going to do regexe add, and we want to add INPROC, so in proc server 32, and we'll force that as well. Could have done that in one shot, but I wanted to show the process there. So now if we look here, I'm going to refresh this again. View, refresh. So if we go to 86, there we go, improc server 32. Okay, what does that do? Let's take a look. So let's go ahead and sign out, sign back in. Now look what happens when I right click. We have the original context menu. So just by adding that registry line, right, where we're good to go there. Let me reopen this up. Okay. So just by adding that to the registry. But here's the issue. So now we know how to fix that. How do we fix that? How do we deploy that? Right? How does that work with Intune? So to understand how we can deploy this, we have to understand the context. So current user is something we can't change. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's not something that's easy to change once the device is already in use. There are ways to do it, but the best thing we can do is take a look at our Autopilot branding script. Okay, so I went ahead and opened up our Autopilot branding script, and this is what we would typically deploy with a new Windows device to kind of just clean up things as we're setting up the PC for an end user. And this is a great place where we can basically set things, especially in the registry. You can see we're setting quite a bit here in the registry, things around policy, different settings, and we do this before the user signs in during the device provisioning. So one really cool trick we do is this temp user piece. So we can kind of stage a user, create a setting, and that becomes the default for any user who signs in. So let's take a look at how we would do this, right? So let me go to a new thing here. So first things first is let's get that whole path. Let's get that in there. So let me just take my GUID and let's go ahead and call this path, or we call it registry path. Reg path equals HKCU software classes CLSID curly brackets, one more slash, and then in proc server 32. And that should give us what we want. But let's think about this. So there is no current user while I'm deploying, which is why we do this temp user thing, right? So what I want to talk about is how do we deploy this beforehand? So we're going to actually load what's called a temp user. And we're going to do this by using the default user class in Windows. Okay, so in order to create this, we have to do regexe. Okay, and we're going to load. So we're going to do hklm temp user. And this is going to be our new hive, basically. So we're going to go users default, and we're going to do nt user.dat. Okay, and we'll go ahead and out host so it waits. Now what we can do is we can use that hklm temp user as if it was the hkcu user. Okay, so let's go ahead and change this now to hklm temp user, because that's where it's going to go, and that'll be our default. So now that we have that, we can just do whatever we want in the middle right here. So we can create settings for all users prior to sign in. So that'll be the default settings. And then in the end, we just unload that temporary key, right? There's no reason to keep it. So we unload hklm temp user. Simple. So in the middle, all we have to do is pretty much just do what we did, before. We're going to go regexe. Okay, we're going to add, and we're going to add the reg path. And we are going to basically say force/f. And again, because we're messing with this and we want to make sure it's done, we'll just out host. That's it. If we're running this during the Autopilot branding script, we can set the context menu there. Okay. What about if we're going to deploy this during when a user is already logged in? Well, if we're running a system, we can then get the GUID of that user and do it for the in the user's node. So let me show you what that'll be like. Okay, so to run this as system and get the current logged in user, this is going to be kind of the same as what we've done. So I'm going to call PS tools, PS exec, IS, PowerShell, and we are going to launch ICE from here. So what we would do, let's see, who am I? Okay, so as system, in order to make that registry change, we're going to use the same thing we do to get the current logged in user during our migration script and other stuff we do. So we're going to say active username So active username is get WMI object Win32 computer system. Hopefully this looks familiar. Select username. I like, you know what? Select object. If you don't know the shortcuts, it's good to type the whole thing out. So that'll give you your active current username. And I'm going to spit that out. It should give me desktop name, Steve. All right, cool. So now all we got to do is translate that to the SID, because when we open the registry up and we look at the current user hive, here we go, HK users, we don't know which one's which. I mean, I do, but typically, you know, if you have a few users, you won't know. So you're going to need that exact value to go into that hive. So now all we have to do is we're going to call this user object. And the user object is going to be a new object, system security principal NT account, and we're going to just say active username. Okay, let's run that and let's call that user object. There we go. So we've actually created an object very similar to like dsreg command. And now what we do is we are going to make the user SID. And we're going to say user object translate. And we're going to translate that to a system security principal security identifier, or SID. And now we'll run that. So let me clear all this out and let me call that user SID. There we go. Okay. And if I just want to pull out the string, I can actually just call that SID equals user SID dot value. So now when I pull the SID out, I just have the value. Now I can concatenate that with my my registry. Okay, so the first thing we do is we create the HKU drive. So we'll say HKU registry is the same as HK users. Keep it all caps for consistency. Okay. Now what we can do is we can say get item, test to see if it works here, HKU, and we can call our SID. And there we go. So now all we have to do, right, is we have to do create our path. The same thing we did before. In fact, I can go and get that piece we need here. So now we can go, where are we looking here? Okay, so once we have the SID, we're going to load the PS drive register. Okay, so once we have the SID and we have the HKU PS drive, what we can do is we can now assemble that. So we can say reg path equals HKU SID. That's just $1. SID. It'll be software classes CLSID. Okay. Yep. What happened? Stop. CLSID. We're gonna put the GUID in there, and then we're gonna do in proc server 32. So reg add reg path force. Now we can just run those, and the operation's completed. So that's how we would then apply that menu to a user who's active. They will need to sign out or reboot, but it'll be there for the next time. Okay, so those are the two ways we can go back to the original context or right-click menu in Windows 11. I think the preferable way is to do it with Autopilot on a new deployment. but you can deploy that script through Intune or a proactive remediation, and you'll be good to go.